These giants, were they different races like we see races now, like Asian, Black,
Mhm.
Caucasian, European? Like how do they look exactly?
Another good question.
Mm,
We have in Egypt, you see in the hieroglyphs, black giants. They're
mm,
clear as day. Their skin tone, they're painted black. They're painted not black, but they're painted brown, like my arm and you like your skin and my skin color,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you see that their servants are painted brown as well. So they
Mm,
have brown servants, but
mm,
they're these kings that are giants. They're actually very obviously brilliant and smart and intelligent because they're actually ruling and have people serving them. You see in the Sumerian culture, in the Akkadian and Babylonian text, and still under the scrolls, you see giants as well, and you see that you can't tell what skin tone they are. Some appear to have more African features. Some of these beings appear to have even African type hair. Some appear to be a little bit more Arabian, by feature.
mm,
And then you also see in other parts of the world depictions of the giants that they left behind. Some of them were these giant, according to even the indigenous Native Americans, these giant, tall, white, red-haired giants. There was even a very well-known account in the Americas of the tribes battling against these tall, white, red-haired giants. So this giant thing that's happening on this planet, it wasn't just at one location; it was everywhere, and it was all different kind of colors and races. We have right there, just in those three accounts, we have what looks like to some people their description is white. Another
mm.
description is black. Another description is more olive. You know what I'm saying? So there's a mixture here.
Right, right. So when we see something like the Incredible Hulk, that's not far fetched.
Oh no, I don't think it's far fetched at all. In terms of now, of course, they've added a thing where he's absorbing gamma rays and it's genetically modifying him in real time. Now, obviously, that's science fiction, but these beings reportedly were that strong. Like they really were that strong. Some of these big, massive blocks and things that got moved around, they didn't need anti gravity. They can just pick them up and move them.
Yeah.
Now think about this. Let's look at the physics of a planet. Okay, so in on this Earth, we grew up under this gravity net, so it set a certain type level of strength to our bones and our structure, right, as our avatar body. Now, if we were to travel to a planet or a moon that was smaller than Earth, the smaller it is, the stronger we are. Okay,
Mm,
and the smaller it is, the most likely the bigger we are to any inhabitants that would be on that planet. Now, the Anunnaki supposedly came from a planet that was 4 to 6 times larger than Earth, which would explain their giant size. If we go to Mars, for example, Mars is much smaller than Earth. We already know that based on Mars gravity, we would, me and you today, without lifting any weights, would be able to pick up a small car.
mm,
We would be able to dunk on a 15-foot basketball hoop. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? We would look like Superman up there.
mm,
Okay.
mm,
Now, just like the Anunnaki, when they came here and started mating, the first, I guess, generation would be strong and still. But by the time that first generation made it again and had a second generation, they would become weaker and smaller. And by the third generation, weaker and smaller. By the fourth generation, weaker and smaller until it normalizes out. The
mm.
same thing here as well. You know what I'm saying?
Well, first of all, somebody asked earlier. Let me ask this. Somebody said if they were so big, how did they mate with humans if they're so big?
Good question.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the accounts, even in the biblical text, the women died.
Wow.
That's one answer. It wasn't too good for the women. In a lot of cases, they didn't live. You know what I'm saying? So that was a big problem. Now, obviously, we know women can handle. They can give birth. They can have a whole doggone baby come out. So they have the capability of stretching pretty far. But it was, in some accounts, very painful, and
Mm,
in some accounts, the women did die.
mm.
Yeah,
Wow. How
yeah.
many floods were there that erased, that completely wiped out civilization from
That's
your
a good.
knowledge?
That's a good question.
Mm,
Okay, because a lot of people are under the assumption that there was only one flood.
right. And there was
Okay,
more.
There was more than one flood, and now we know this because we can look at the geology of the Earth, and we can check out the rock strata,
Mm,
and we can actually see the different layers. And these different layers of strata actually tell us a history.
mm,
And we can go and get the ice core samples, which we've already done.
mm,
And the ice core samples, we take this gigantic drill, and you send this core down, a
mm,
hollow core, and when you pull it out, you pull up all the ice, and every layer that comes up is like so many hundreds of years.
mm,
And
mm,
then you take that ice and you slice it up, and you take the same core from the geology, and you
mm,
take that dirt and that mud and that rock, and you take it out the same exact way, and
mm,
you slice it up into pieces, and then you analyze it in a laboratory. And
mm,
we can get a lot of data from this. So we find that there was at least 4 floods that we know of, okay, going back hundreds of thousands of years up until what looks like the last one was maybe around 36,000 years ago, the massive one, which
mm,
ironically, how old are the emerald tablets?
mm,
36,000 years old, according to the people that back this thing. So pretty interesting.
mm,
The other thing is on the ice core data and the strata data, you can look at it and see that through a scientific analysis, not only were there floods, but they can even detect all the global warming periods.
mm,
So global warming is not from cows farting and people using hairspray cans and your gas, your emissions from your car. Have human beings contributed to carbon dioxide? Yes. But the majority of this warming is now we see from actual geological evidence, it's a natural cycle that occurs around every 4,200 years. Okay.
mm,
And this isn't even the warmest warming period. And it seems that every time we come out of this ice period into a warming period, that's when these giants seem to reappear
mm,
again. It's
mm,
pretty crazy stuff, man.
mm.
By Compendium of the Emerald Tablets by Billy Carson.